Zabrowski, and I'm going to be defining what the U.S. debt ceiling is. It is a legislative limit on the amount of national debt that can be issued by the U.S. Treasury, which it limits how much money the federal government may borrow from other countries. It is also an aggregate figure which applies to the gross debt, which includes debt in the hands of the public and intergovernment accounts. And this applies to about 0.05% of the ceiling, which is probably not a lot.
In 2011, we raised the debt ceiling limit spending because we have to look back 11 years before that. In 2001, we had already incurred a lot of military spending due to the war, as well as homeland security. At this time now, in 2011, we had President Barack Obama, and in Congress, the ones who were dominant were Republicans. Ultimately, Congress decides whether to raise or not raise the debt ceiling. We had Republicans, and they took hostage of the debt ceiling so that President Barack Obama would cede with their preferred policies. This did happen because no matter what, the president gets blame for the financial crisis. The president ceded with their preferred policies, and in return, he gained back the debt ceiling raise.
Over time, the value of the dollar will depreciate. Since the dollar is at the center of many international markets and trades, once the dollar is affected majorly, we will begin to see higher interest rates and destabilize markets. Even though U.S. Treasuries are one of the safest things to invest money into, any mistrust or fear that would make the investors take their money elsewhere would not only affect the U.S. economy, but the world economy.
Failing to raise the debt ceiling would result in America having to pay back all of their loans to the multiple countries worldwide, which would result in corporations nationwide to have less money circulating, which would result in cutoffs, meaning less jobs available for the immediate community. This would result in future cutoffs for schools, hospitals, and luxuries such as Medicare, Social Security, and Obamacare. We don't fund our schools. That means kids are going to have less education, meaning less skilled workers into the future. Not funding police officers would result in more crime around nationwide. And failing to pay things such as like hospitals and Medicare would result in less Medicare available for everybody. Ultimately, this would lead to less money circulating in the economy, meaning a less centralized government.
The first picture is a time graph which begins in 1970 and ends in 2016. The graph is also color-coded to show whether the president's 4-year terms were Republican or Democrat, and it also shows the names of the presidents serving in those 4-year terms. The graph shows that in 1970, after Nixon, the rise had begun very slowly in growth. But then in 2016, nearing Obama's end of the career, the graph shows that now it rises exponentially with a larger amount of debt, adding to our debt every year. The second picture shows two animals discussing what should be done first in order to stop the debt ceiling from rising. The horse seems anxious to rise the debt ceiling for purposes that concern the public, for things that we need. And then while the elephant says to lower the floor, which points to lowering federal spending. This picture shows a huge disagreement in our current social area, and the continuing rise of debt ceiling can destroy our economy and end our credibility as a superpower.